Welcome to This PAW'S For You podcast, celebrating service, therapy, and working dogs, and how they save lives every day. Join us as we get to know the dogs and their handlers. Be sure you're subscribed. This PAW'S For You podcast is brought to you in part by Springer Education Entertainment, Anchor Productions, and Dogs on Duty, the Dog U Series. Find out more about that one at thedoguseries.com. Now your host, riveting Ron Springer.
Thank you, epic voice guy, John Bailey. Here we are, This PAW'S For You. And we have today a team, a service dog team, Amy Buus and Inky. And so we're going to learn about service dogs and how they change lives and save lives every day. So, Amy, tell us your story.
Well, I'm a 100% disabled veteran. I was injured only little while in, and I only served 3.5, and I was medically separated. I separated both sides of my pelvis in the back due to a connective tissue disorder we didn't know I had. So
thank you for your service. I got to say that right up front. Thank you so much.
I mean, I'd still be in if I could. I really would. But because of this, it was chronic illness that they didn't understand what was going on. And it took 10 years to fully diagnose it. And so I have a lot of anxiety and I have panic attacks from underlying things that it was too much. And so Inky really helps with that. So like I can't even go shopping at, say, Walmart and be closed in at checkout with people in front and behind me without starting to feel the symptoms of a panic attack. But if I have Inky, I'm okay. Can't go through the airport through TSA because you're stuck in a queue without having a panic attack. Found that one out recently. So she's really been helpful for that, but she's also trained herself to detect when I have a migraine coming on. She lets me know ahead of time and leads me to a dark spot. So
how does she deal with it? If you're feeling that something's going to happen, you're going to have a reaction or it's a panic's coming on or anything else, what does Inky do?
Inky likes to do, she's a poodle. She's an American Standard poodle. And so she'll boop me with her nose. She just hits my hand or hits my side until I start petting her. She has jumped up on me and pinned me down before because I get lightheaded with my migraines. So she doesn't want me going anywhere. So she'll try to get me to do that. But usually I get booped a lot.
So depending on what it is, it may be a boop. She'll nudge you with her nose, or then if it's a migraine, then she may do compression. In other words, I know dogs oftentimes will just get on top of the chest and just be there.
Yeah, I think it's more of she can detect a slight blood pressure change, and she knows that I get real dizzy, so she wants me laying down and won't let me get up.
How are you paired with her? She's has the ability to help you in very specific ways. And how did that happen?
It's kind of an interesting story. I work with an organization called Dogs for Superheroes. They rescue dogs and train them and pair them with veterans. A lot of times PTSD veterans really need that companion, someone that's got their back. And a dog is always going to be there. And so I work with the organization. I help with a lot of things with training because we'll train as a group and pass the dogs off so that they're comfortable with other handlers if needed, and exposure to other dogs, noises, everything else, so that when they're actually out working, they're avoiding distractions. And we found out about a dog that we were being notified about, that the owner, she had been a service dog for another person who had Parkinson's, and the person developed dementia and was at a point where she had to go into a home and she could no longer have the dog. And so they were at their wits' end on what to do with her, asked us if we could find a place for her, because a lot of times a service dog that goes into a shelter isn't very adoptable because they don't know how to be a family dog. They only know how to be with a person. And so I offered to foster her. And my oldest son at the time was having severe anxiety and selective mutism. And he went with me, and she saw him and she just brightened up. You could just see the joy, and she jumped up with him and he started talking again. And it was just like,
That's incredible.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
And so we took her in, and he didn't need her at school. His anxiety is mostly medical. So she goes to doctor's appointments with him, but the rest of the time she's with me. And so she's like, you ain't getting away with this. You need me too. And so she's glued to me to the point that she won't go to the bathroom for anyone else. She won't do anything or follow anyone else's commands because she's so attuned to me.
For your son, will she boop him to be petted, or is that just something that you and she do?
That's more of something she and I do. But she, at medical appointments, her training is amazing. She will find a corner and just lay down and just be there. And so a lot of times nurses and doctors come in the room and they don't see her because she's just laying down quiet, and they don't notice her until she moves.
That's got to be an impact on your social life. So what about if your husband and you want to go have a date night, she's there with you. Is she, if you're seeing a movie or out for a walk, it's always the three of you, right?
Yep. She does really good. He doesn't mind, and she'll boop him too. Like, hey, you need to pet me. And so if I'm not petting her right there because I'm in the middle of something, she'll go over to him and put her her chin on his leg and just push down hard and nudge his head or his hand until he starts petting her. It's adorable. And in the car, she does it too. And she wants to sit on the console and look out the window, and then she'll lean whichever way the turn is coming to lean against it. So we started calling her the gyro poodle.
That's funny. Too fun. Well, is she black, white, or a blend?
She's solid black.
Solid black.
And
okay,
she's a 10-year-old standard poodle.
Oh, it's adorable. So what are some of the challenges you have with Inky as a service dog?
There's still a lot of difficulties when you're out and about. I've had situations where she got charged by someone had a larger dog, and it was on a 6 to 8 foot lead. And it was obviously not a service dog, but most policies in places now are you can't ask. And so I was there, and because my oldest son had her lead because I was pushing the cart, he almost got attacked by that dog. So luckily some employees were standing right there, and this is the only time Inky's barked she got between my son and that dog. And they said, do you want us to file a report? I said, absolutely. I said, I'd like to speak to your manager. And those people were asked to leave because obviously the dog was not a service dog. And so I've run into that situation a lot of times where people have other dogs, and Inky has gotten to the point where she may look over and glance and see it, but she completely ignores it, barking at her, trying to get her attention. She just does what she's doing. That's
what they do. They just focus on their person.
Yep.
Now, have you had any issues with people thinking that Inky is not a service dog?
All the time.
Oh, what happens?
Well, she's a poodle. She is a purebred poodle, so she has the floof. And so people see Poodle and don't even see the bright purple vest she's wearing. And we'll just come up to start petting her. And I'm like, no, you cannot pet her. I actually have a patch on her that on top of all the ones that say service dog, do not distract, stress and anxiety response, I have one that says, I'm so fluffy, but no touchy. Because they won't stop doing it. So that gets really frustrating. And the public sector is pretty good about understanding with a service dog. A lot of times they'll clarify, is this a service dog? And I say yes. And then they leave it at that. I haven't really had much issue otherwise because she always wears the vest. And it's very clearly marked, and she's obviously very well behaved. It's going into the private sector, going into people's homes. I usually can't bring her because she has public legal right to be with me, not private. And so I don't know the dynamic of their home. I don't know if they have a dog. I don't know how that will work. And so I have to talk to them ahead of time. Hey, is it okay if I bring my dog? Is that going to be an issue? And I can't take her everywhere. I have a sister who has an elderly dog that is aggressive towards other dogs. So I have to leave her home when I go visit my sister or leave her in the car. My parents' house, she gets spoiled rotten because they just lost their St. Bernard of almost 10 years.
Oh.
So I have to deal with the hand out treats, and then she starts begging. So I have to untrain her because she gets spoiled. And I have introduced her to my other sister's dog, and they'll play together. And then she's like, okay, I'm done, because it's a husky and a puppy. So he's quite hyper. But it's more of because I hadn't been around my family for over 20 years. And back then, my anxiety didn't show. I didn't have a service dog. I didn't have this because I masked it so well. And so now I've accepted it, and I've started speaking up for myself. Hey, I can't handle this. And I don't handle loud group situations, and I have a large family. So she is necessary. And I ran into some flack about they're embarrassed to be out with me. It's more of an older generation thing, I think, kind of the baby boomer era. And it's frustrating. So I tried to go on a date, and she grabbed the leash and said, well, I'll keep her here so you can go on your date. And I had to go and say, because I was calling my dog and she was ignoring it because she was holding the leash. And I finally had to get up really close and say, let go of my dog, because she didn't understand it because her daughter hadn't needed it in the past. And it's a very hard acceptance. And it's hard to see that she is a medical device, like a cane, a pair of crutches, a wheelchair. And to see a dog in that frame of mind is very difficult because it's not a seeing eye dog. It's not, anything else. And so there's a lot of, well, hopefully after counseling, you'll overcome and you won't need her anymore. And that's really frustrating to hear because I run through a lot of the gamut. Both my kids are autistic ADHD, and it's looking towards, and I'm under current diagnosis that I most likely grew up on the spectrum. And so I had to mask it. A girl in the 80s, autistic, that's totally high functioning. No, she's just weird. And so I would suppress my responses, and I wouldn't speak up for myself. And then I'd disappear into a corner reading a book or, shut down and not talk to people. And it wasn't attitude. It wasn't anything like that. I was overwhelmed and overstimulated. So Inky's there at my parents' house. She sees it happening. She comes and she wants to jump up on the couch next to me and lay down on me or try to get my attention and do everything. And I'm getting better about saying, hey, I'm not comfortable. I'll pull my mom aside. Mom, I'm really overwhelmed. This was supposed to be a small gathering, and you've got a lot of your friends here, and I don't know these people, and it's just too much for me. So I'm going to go ahead and head home.
Yeah.
And I asked my kids, hey, do you want to stay or do you want to head home? I give them that choice. Usually my youngest hits that overwhelm point faster. My oldest is more social. And so my husband is a very social person. Like, his social battery charges from being around people. And for me, it's draining being around people, and I have to recharge for quite a while. So he'll stay with my other son. He'll socialize and do everything else. And it's never been an issue or a complication. So it's one of those things. So balancing things out and learning to stand up and advocate, it's been a little more empowering because I have her, but also I don't feel as crowded because people see the dog and they give me more space, except for the kids that run up and want to pet. And that's a huge problem, educating kids. And so I step in and I talk to the parents about it. I frame it, do you want your kid running up on any strange dog? Because what if that dog's aggressive?
On the petting, you mentioned that is a part of the way that Inky helps you. So And you're not wanting her petted, of course, out in public. So and that's the reason is because that's what she uses to help you. So can you explain a little more about why? Yeah.
With Inky, because I do a lot of education with kids and ask to pet, I talk to a lot of parents about it and things like that, because it's a safety thing. You need to be not only training your kids to pet nicely, but to ask if it's okay to pet an animal. And so I'll be with people and be like, can I pet? And I let the kids practice. And so Inky gets very easily distracted if other people are petting her. And she goes into social mode instead of working mode. And so that's more of it's a distraction for her. So I don't want her being pet in most public situations unless it's part of a training. Now my kids and my husband are allowed to pet her when they're with us, because we're all kind of the family, and my kids get anxious sometimes, and she helps ground and redirect all of us a little bit when we need it. So that's different. But if it's a complete stranger coming up and just starting to pet, then I will be like, hey, I need to politely ask you not to do that. You're distracting my dog from her job. She's working. You need to be asking. That's inappropriate at any place, but especially with a working dog.
So if someone sees a service dog, first thing they should do is ask before they do anything, right?
Yes. By law, they're not allowed to ask, what's your medical condition? Mm-hmm. They're not allowed to ask any of that. They can ask, is that a service dog? And they can ask what services it performs.
Yes. Because
I have a patch on her that says stress and anxiety response that answers for me. And I have a lot of people that have severe PTSD and they can't engage with other people. So there is service dog do not approach patches. And we have gotten to a point where there's a typed up, this is what the law is, and she can just hand it to somebody and walk off, because that triggers her and sets her back in her therapy a very long way. And so I'm always advocating, hey, and more I'm seeing parents tell their kids, nope, see the vest, that dog's working. We need to let it work. And I am so encouraged to see that. And, when I'm out and about in a place, there's not much crowd, and a person is holding their kid back, and you can tell this little 4-year-old has been very well educated, and he says, I love your dog, can I pet it? And I walked over and I thanked the gentleman so much for training their kid right. And I said to the child, thank you so much for asking. Yes, you may pet my dog. And so in situations like that, I will create a positive interaction for that child to reinforce. But some of these dogs are not an anxiety response dog. They are smelling for detection of blood sugar issues. They're watching a heart. They're watching syncope. They're watching so many things. They're seizure detection dogs. They cannot be distracted in the slightest way because they may miss something for their person. And so that is where the big problem is if you distract that dog that's working, they may miss a medical emergency for their handler. And so that's why the education is so important.
Now it's time for Questions for Canines. Submit your questions in the comments.
Hi, it's Frankie, your passionate pup from Brooklyn. I've been asked to answer a few questions, so here we go. Do you feel the cat is plotting against you? Oh boy, let me tell you how it is in New York. A dog's got to be on high alert with all the hustle and bustle. As for the cat plotting against me, I wouldn't put it past them. Cats around here have had that look in their eye like they're always scheming something. But hey, as long as there are treats and belly rubs, I think I can handle the occasional feline conspiracy. Forget about it. Do you have a favorite TV show, or do you just watch Animal Planet? I love watching TV. I don't just watch Animal Planet, I dominate the remote. Sure, I might enjoy the occasional animal documentary, but I've got a taste for action-packed shows and anything with a good plot twist. Oh, if it's got a squeaky toy or a heroic pup, you bet I'm all in. After all, a tough dog needs top-notch entertainment. What's the most embarrassing thing your human has done? Oh, this is a good one. Definitely the time they had a Zoom meeting with their boss and forgot that they were still wearing their pajama pants. They stood up to grab a coffee, and let's just say that their professional upper half was matched with a decidedly unprofessional lower half. The look on their boss's face was priceless.
This has been Questions for Canines. Remember to submit your questions in the comments. Back to you, Ron.
So one of the things that I really see is that service dogs save lives every day. And are there any other memorable things she's done when you've been out and about?
Well, she does a lot when I'm out and about, but at home, she does a totally different thing, because I did go through a domestic violence situation with an ex-husband. And so I do have a lot of trauma related to that. So it's hard for me to sleep, because I feel like I'm always needing to be on edge, on guard, because I'm also listening. Is something going on with my kids, everything else? So she sits on my bed and she'll alert me if something's going on in the house. She'll let me know. She barks and wakes me up, lets me know what's going on, and can hear what's going on with the kids. And sometimes she'll go check on them and things like that if they're having a nightmare or things like that. But she lets me know. And so that gives me peace of mind. Okay, if something happens, I will be woken up. I'll know what's going on. It's okay to go into an actual relaxing, restful sleep, which is hard.
So in that case, then it's not a boop, it's a bark.
Yes.
So she's a level of alertness depending on what the situation is. So
Yes.
These dogs, I know they can problem solve. They'll sort these things out. So there's a difference.
She's amazingly smart, and we deal with so many medical issues with my one son. She because he sleepwalks, and in the night when he's sleepwalking, he will change his overnight depends, and he doesn't always bag it and put it away. He stashes it, and we don't know why this behavior happens, but it does. And so he's supposed to go check the bathroom every single day. Well, he got off to school, and all of a sudden she comes out carrying a full one from the bathroom. So he got confronted when he got home, and we discovered a whole nother stash that had been piling up that we didn't know about. And we wouldn't have known about it if she hadn't shown us. So
she's on patrol. She's looking for all kinds of things.
She is. And it's been hard, because she did come from some neglect, because the lady developed dementia. And with dementia, you forget about important things like feeding and taking care of. So her grooming had been let go, but she had also developed a nasty habit of trying to find food. So I have to make sure I have food always available for her. Or she may take the opportunistic way to jump up on the counter and help herself to a slice of pizza. Or if you have a plate and you leave it sitting on the couch, she may or may not leave it alone.
Okay.
And so I've been working with her on, you can have some of my food, but not till I get it in your bowl or till I hand it to you directly. And so that's one of those things that it's all about the training and consistency with your training that keeps the dog trained and keeps them working, because they can lose training easily. You have to keep working with them. And that's the most important part with the organizations like the one I'm with, where we're constantly, doing the social, doing the things, helping make sure the dog keeps their training as well.
So when you're at home, and the vest comes off, is she just like any other dog, or she sounds like she's always alert and tracking stuff?
When we first got her, she didn't know how to play. She had never been taught how to play. And so I got a squeaky toy, and she's like, "What's that?" And she liked it, and I threw it for her. And she just lit up, and she's a 10-year-old dog. She wears me out, and she'll move to my husband doing it and everybody else, because she wants to play, and she loves to play fetch. And so she has her toys, and she'll bring them to you, and it cheers us up in the most random moments when we're just kind of blah. She'll come and plop her toy on our lap, or she'll just sit there with it and squeak the little thing. She doesn't destroy them. She's very polite, but because poodles are hunting dogs, that's what they're bred for. Being able to seek that purpose and actually be fulfilled, has made her seem like a totally different dog, and she seems to have more energy, and it's like her inner puppy got released. And so most people can't believe she's a 10-year-old dog. They think she's maybe 2.
She seems to be, this is like a play for her. It's doing what she does. It's not like she has to have time off. This is what she does. So
Yeah.
it's either out about with a vest on, or it's home just being Inky.
Yep. And she knows the vest means go to work. And if she sees me grab my purse or my keys and headed to the garage, she's like, oh, you're not leaving without me. And so if I have to go to a situation like I have to go with my son into pre-op or post-op where it's not a public space and it's a hygienic issue, she cannot be in place there. I have to leave her with my husband or my other son. And it's hard for her. Or if I have a procedure done, when I come out, she's on me and pins me down so I can't leave her again. I can't even go to the bathroom without her. She's very particular about you're not leaving me again.
So in 20 years from now, how would you want you and your service dog to be remembered? What's that thing about Inky you want people to know?
Just, I always had a stigma against poodles until I met her. And she really is that missing limb for me. It's a no-brainer. She's just an extension of me. And I didn't know I needed her until I met her. And it was an instant click. And the fact that I have her, I'm no longer stuck in my head and dealing with the anxiety emotions and things like that. I can be easily grounded because I have someone with me that has my back and is constantly vigilant for me.
So now, at what point would she retire? How long will she work?
The standard poodle life expectancy is about 12 to 14 years. She's 10 right now. So in about two years or so is probably when I need to start bringing another dog in and training. I'm also going to depend on her and how she's doing, because it'll be hard for her to stay home. And so it's finding ways to help her with the transition, help her be comfortable, and have her help with the training of the new dog. So she's like, okay, my person's still taken care of, because that's really important. Because the first bit of training with any new dog is the basics, is basic commands, responding, staying close, all those things. And a puppy isn't really trainable to do much more than harness training, walking, command response, things like that, until they're at least a year or older, because their puppy brain is developing and their body's growing so much that it takes so much out of them. Their brain can't keep up when they're physically growing. Just like toddlers, they go through regression every time they hit a growth spurt. And so you work with them through it, but you get them to a point where then they can cognitively, okay, I get it. So exposure therapy to loud noises, desensitization, those are all the things you do with a puppy. The real training starts once they've hit more of a teenager adulthood, early adulthood.
So in this case, then you would bring in a dog, and Inky would, they just team up, and the dog would be learning from Inky. Is that how that works?
Yes. It would be a dog in training vest. And so people are more respectful of a dog in training because they know not to distract a dog that's training. So I would either have them side by side for a while, and Inky's already showing early signs of arthritis, so I give her a supplement and stuff. But like when it's really, really cold out, I will leave her at home because her joints just can't handle the cold. And so in those situations, or if it's really, really hot out, she's black. She absorbs the heat. And so I have to treat her paws so they don't get burnt. And I have to have special shoes for her, which no dog likes wearing those. But it's to keep her from getting horrible surface burns on her paws. And so she understands and she's learning it. And you can tell she's getting more tired when we get home. She just plops and goes to sleep. So I think it won't be as hard as long as she's part of the training and understands what's going on. But the full transition will probably happen when she's a lot less mobile and is more comfortable staying home.
What would you tell somebody who is thinking about getting a service dog? What would you say that to them? In other words, what would you have wish you had known before you had a service dog?
The level of preparedness, planning ahead, having a go bag for your dog. You know, you got to carry water, you got to carry the poop bags, obviously. They can't eat when you're in a restaurant, but some restaurants will let you give them water if it's hot out. So having a bowl, being able to give them water. But a lot of times you're gonna face stigma. You're gonna get questioned, especially if you don't have a visible disability like me. I look normal, so I get a lot more strange looks like, oh, well, you're not disabled. And so I have to just sit there, and I have a patch on her that says not all disabilities are visible. And I just keep going, because that's not my problem. That's an education problem, and that's their problem.
Yes.
And having learned that, I don't let it ruin my day. I have a philosophy: you can't control what happens around you, but you can control how you let it affect you and how you react to it. And by not responding, not reacting, then it gives them no fuel. And maybe they'll look further into it, or they'll read the patches and be like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not thinking about that. And so more and more, we're seeing a lot on like TikTok and other social media about people with service dogs and the issues they face, and uneducated store managers and employees that are like, you can't bring that dog in here. And for a PTSD person, that can trigger an episode and they can become violent. So the education, I think, is the big thing, and be prepared to have to educate others as you go through the process.
Well, thank you so much. And for our listening audience, if you'd like to know more about service dogs and what they do, you can check out some links below and share this episode. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.
Thanks for listening and for subscribing to This PAW'S For You podcast. Visit our website, tpfypod.com. We are currently accepting submissions for additional sponsors, so they can pay me with more than just dog biscuits. That could be you. This is Epic Voice Guy John Bailey saying, until next time, ruff, ruff, bow, wow, sniff, sniff.